Successful business leaders never stop learning. Inform your opinions at Business Desk, your deep dive into New Zealand business, the markets and the economy. Subscribe with Google at businessdesk.co.nz.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
The match officials have been announced for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. 7 television match officials, including New Zealand's Brendan Pickerel, 7 assistant referees, including Kiwi James Dolman, and 12 referees, including Paul Williams and Ben O'Keefe. From our shores, Ben O'Keefe is with us. Ben, congratulations. A World Cup is the pinnacle for players. Is it the same for referees?
Hey, Piney. Mate, it is. It's something that, obviously it comes around every 4 years. You start building up to it, you start thinking about it, and to be able to finally get there and get to another World Cup is a huge honour, and awesome that we're getting 4 of the Kiwi match officials there. And I think it goes to show where we are in terms of leading the world in the match official space here in New Zealand. Yeah,
great to see 4 of you there. So in the years building up to World Cups, and in particular in the last few months or so, do you know that you're in the selection frame?
I think so, because you build up. You don't just sort of get chosen 2 months out from World Cup, and if you've been refereeing well, you've actually got to be refereeing well consistently for the last since the last World Cup, 3 to 4 years, because you go through cycles of Six Nations, rugby championships once you're at that level. And if you're consistently refereeing at that level and you're consistently getting appointments in those competitions, then you sort of know that you're in the running, but you never know until you've done your last game. Obviously, a lot of us did Six Nations at the start of the year, and then you still have to referee well in your domestic leagues, and if that goes all well, then you get a phone call that a few of us received last week.
Now, just on that Six Nations, I saw you refereeing a game between England and France earlier this year, and you were speaking French to the French players. How long have you been speaking French in rugby matches?
I sort of keep that in my back pocket, Piney. But when I was 15, I lived in France for 6 months. I did a student exchange there. Went over there just because obviously love the country. I had a few friends that went to other places just to learn a language too. And so it's quite funny how it's sort of coming around in full circle. And obviously with the French World Cup this year, it's going to be another challenge, and hopefully I'll be able to use that language a bit more. But yeah, to be able to use it in a game was a really special challenge to be able to do it, and just to be able to converse with those players. Obviously the French and the English. I still had a terrible accent in both English and French as well, I can assure you.
Good stuff. So back at the last World Cup, 2019, your first World Cup, from memory you both refereed and also you're an AR as well. So this time around, is that the same situation? Do you referee and also assistant referee?
No, you do. So they pick 12 referees to be able to referee all the pool games, and obviously you'll be in consideration for the quarters, semis and the final. So you referee about 3 pool games. And what you do as well is that they need the assistant referees who have been selected to only be the assistant referee. They're the AR2s. So you need the AR1, so the second assistant referee on the field, who is able to and ready to go on if there's an injury to the referee, the main referee on the day. So it happens pretty rarely, but those AR1s, they need to be ready to jump on. So they'll be taken out of the actual referees in the tournament. So I expect to go there to referee about 3 pool games, and probably AR will be the assistant referee for 3 or 4 as well, so we'll be pretty busy.
And then on to the knockout stages. So do your performances in pool games determine the games that you're assigned in the knockout stages?
Yeah, so 2 things, Piney. It's really down to, I guess, how well you referee in the tournament. That can come down to obviously the games, some of the politics, obviously the media attention. The politics really is that you can't referee your own nation. So look, as we all want the All Blacks to go deep. We want them to win the tournament. If they make the quarters, they make the semis, then hopefully they make the final. It just means other games that I won't be involved in, or any other New Zealander too. So it's all down to obviously how you've refereed to get there. Then once you're in the tournament, that red hot environment, if you can referee well, they'll put their trust in you to take over the big games in the knockout stages.
You've been doing this for a while now, Ben. If you think about the referee you were when you first came into the elite level and the referee you are now, how has your refereeing evolved during that time?
Look, mate, it's constantly evolving. There's been a lot of highs or lows. You learn a lot from all of those experiences that you've had all through domestic competitions like NPC, Super Rugby, the pinnacle events like Six Nations, all the test matches I've done, the Lion series that I've done, and obviously the World Cup in Japan. So it evolves in terms of I guess, the accuracy of the decisions that you're making. And it's not a accuracy in terms of being technically correct all the time. It's actually making the right decision in the right moment for the game, being consistent within that game. And for me, the big one is around, obviously, I want to be able to create a platform where the game is actually showcasing the players and their skills. And I want to be able to communicate in a good fashion that the captains know exactly what I'm saying. They can deliver the message to the team, and the team get on and play a good style of rugby. So that's how I'm evolving, and I've got many years still left to learn. I'll make mistakes in the future. I'll learn from them and get even better. So I'm constantly looking to just improve so that the game can improve and people can talk about the players.
And during your time as an elite referee, are there other referees who you've looked up to or sought advice from to help you officiate better at the elite level?
Yeah, every single referee that I've come across, and I think, you've got to be open to be able to look at what people do well. You look at their style, look at how they move on the field, the decisions that they make, how they react when they're under pressure. And I look at those behaviours and I try and emulate them for my game. So I take bits of what I saw Craig Joubert do. I take bits of what I saw Glenn Jackson do, Chris Pollock. Even further back, you think of Colin Hawke and Paddy O'Brien. So all these great New Zealand referees, but also referees from around the world. I try and emulate parts of their game and then make it into my own style, the Ben O'Keefe way that I think allows the game to flow. It allows players to play the brand of rugby that they want. And, I'm able to communicate well to them, what I'm saying. So I think you definitely do. And the important part now is as we get to these big games is that we've got a good group, not just New Zealand referees so that we're going to the World Cup, but the top level of referees work really, really well together to support each other around decisions, around learning, because they are the ones out in the game. They have experiences that I haven't necessarily experienced, so we talk about that. So when it happens for me in a game in the future, I'm better prepared for that moment when it faces me too. So I think the camaraderie in the team there is really good right now. It's helping me a lot.
Yeah, terrific stuff. What has been the most challenging part of the modern day game for you to officiate?
I think probably the hardest part is around the technical aspect of foul play. So, we can talk about the technicalities of the scrum, the ruck, the maul. They're all sort of different things that, we're working on, and, there's a lot of people talking about them. But foul play in particular, as we're going into a space where we're trying to protect player safety, there's a lot of talk about concussion and head injury within sport. We're trying to get to a space where we are looking after the safety of players, but also we're allowing that spectacle. Now, that balance, we're constantly having to balance out over the last few years. And, we've created these head contact processes so that, we can be really firm and really consistent around what is a red card, what is a yellow card, what's a penalty, what's play on. And, what we've found is that we've just slowly had to tweak them over a few years. So there's been a lot of intervention from referees. There's been a lot of red cards, yellow cards over probably the last 2 years, 3 years, especially in Six Nations. But I think we're getting to a good point now where that balance is getting close to right, so that the majority of the public, touch wood right now, when they can see a decision, they can see the decision in the card that we give, we explain it and they can understand that. Where I think potentially a few years ago we weren't there just because we were trialling a new system. So over time, it's just like players, just like coaching, we get to a point where we find that happy medium around the foul play, which I think at the moment it is the toughest, and at the end of the day, everyone's talking about those one or two big decisions, which generally come down to foul play within a game of rugby.
There's been plenty of talk this week about officiating in the NRL. It's been a really hot topic with opinions, flying left, right, and centre. The concept of unconscious bias is one that's been talked about a lot, and the fact that the so-called bigger teams tend to get the rub of the green on some of those 50-50 calls. Do you have any thoughts on unconscious bias and whether that is actually a thing?
Yes, look, it's definitely something that I've thought about, because often it's branded to us union referees as well. So, look, NRL isn't my sport. I'm not going to comment on a different code because I don't really have the knowledge about the laws of that game. But I can definitely comment around referees and match officials. And I think anytime, I guess, a passionate supporter, and this is what's happened in the media, a passionate supporter comes out and comments on match officials and being biased, I think that definitely crosses that line. Unconscious bias is a thing I've always tried to work out here. What's the answer? Because it's an unconscious thing, isn't it? But as match officials, we're always going out to referee a game consistently, fairly for both teams. And yes, we do make errors, But those errors aren't down to a bias against an individual, a bias against a team, or a bias against a coach. I've made errors in my career as well, and I go out to rectify them in my review so that I'm better the week after. So for me, I think those comments that are potentially made in the media are pretty hurtful, because it doesn't just extend to NRL referees. When I read stuff like that in the media, it extends to other professional referees within New Zealand, but also, volunteer and community referees who are giving up their time in the weekend for a sport and, a passion that we love. So, look, that's sort of my answer around that in terms of bias. I think I'll always stand up for, I guess, the integrity of match officials when bias and questions like that are put into the forefront for us, because I don't believe in it at all.
Well said, mate. Well said. And you mentioned before you can't referee any All Blacks matches at the Rugby World Cup. So does any part of you, any part at all, hope that the All Blacks don't make the final so that you maybe would be in the mix to referee it?
No, honestly, and I can be really clear on this. I remember when the All Blacks, won the last final. I remember watching that when I was in New Zealand. I remember just the emotion that I felt, and the emotion that I saw around the place. I was down in Dunedin, I was at varsity, and I want that to happen again. I've been a part of some awesome games in my career, some great finals, and for me, having to pick off a final isn't a milestone that I need, and I really want, and I know that the All Blacks can do well at the World Cup. I think they will make the final, and I know that they'll win the final. I hope they do, and I hope that I'm watching it from the stands and can feel that feeling again, because for me that's more important, and I hope that happens in the future. Yeah,
good stuff. Well, hopefully you'll get some high-profile other games, a high-profile quarter, the other semi maybe, and third or fourth place match, something like that. Ben, it's been great to chat, get your insight. Congratulations again on earning selection for a second Rugby World Cup. Look forward to seeing how you get on over in France.
Yeah, cheers, Piney. It's going to be an extra special World Cup this year. I think there's going to be a lot of great games. It's going to be super competitive with the teams that we have, and I know that we've got a great group of match officials that are going to go there and do a great job too.
Terrific. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for joining us. Ben O'Keefe, one of 4 Kiwis off to the Rugby World Cup as officials. Brendan Pickerel, James Dolman, Paul Williams and Ben O'Keefe are the 4.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.
Hello, I'm Liam Dan, Business Editor-at-Large for the New Zealand Herald, and I'm back with another season of my podcast, Money Talks. In this series, we're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not going to try and pick the next interest rate move. Instead, I'll be talking to some interesting New Zealanders about how money has shaped their lives and what they've learned about it through the years. Join us every Saturday for a new chat with an exciting range of guests from the world of business, politics and entertainment. You can find Money Talks with me, Liam Dan, wherever you get your podcasts.